Welcome back. Will Worsham joins me now for this week's Speaking Legal discussion, where we answer a viewer's legal question on the air. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, we're going to take a look at this week's question. My ex-husband is denying me the right to take our daughter on a vacation outside of the country. We share custody, and that vacation falls on my week with her. So can I take her with me anyway? Now, we're talking about out of the country, not out of state,
Right.
not out of town, out of the country.
Yes. Like anything else that deals with a custody arrangement, when there's a custody arrangement in place, it's going to be governed by the agreement that's put in place, the parenting plan. So whether it comes from a marriage, a divorce, or it comes from another custody arrangement, there's going to be an order, if the courts have been involved, that says this is how you decide how the child should be raised, the parenting, and who gets to make what decisions, what the rights of each parent are, which parents can make unilateral decisions about one thing, whether it takes both parents or whatever. Normally, an agreement like this, a situation like this, is going to be covered in that parenting plan. So, the first thing to do is look to the parenting plan. What does the parenting plan say about what the rights of the parents are about taking the child out of state or out of the country? So if the parenting plan speaks to it and says it requires the consent of both parents, then yes, she's going to have both parents are going to have to agree that that child can go out of the country or even out of state, depending on how the parenting plan is worded.
But if it's not even addressed in the plan, then what happens?
Well, you know, then I think you sort of have to let common sense prevail to some extent. But technically, if it's not addressed in the plan, it's not a violation of court order.
Okay.
So you don't run into that as being a problem, as being in violation of the court order. Because the remedy, if you violate that parenting plan, is the offended party goes to court and asks for a contempt order that says, hey, they're in contempt of this order, they're in contempt of court.
Right.
You need to impose sanctions, you need to prevent them from doing that.
But if there is no order, then you should probably try to be nice and say, look, here's the deal, let's work this out.
You know, here's the issue. Even if you technically maybe have the right to do what you want to do, what comes around goes around.
Yeah.
And this could really come back to bite you. The idea is if you have a child together, you want to raise that child cooperatively. So you need to try to get along. Now, even if the parenting plan, by the way, just to get back to answer this question a little bit, parenting plan says no, she's got to have her husband's permission, or ex-husband's, or the father of the child, permission to take the child out of the country, and he's withholding that, she can still go to the court and say, I understand this is a situation, but I think I should be allowed to do this. Judge, will you please make the decision to do that? He can then fight about it, and you can have a big fight about it if you want.
Wow.
And maybe that's important, maybe it's not, depending on the circumstances of the case.
So if you, let's say, if one of the parents has family out of the country, and they go to visit this family, this is something you should address. And in that case, I would think you would address that in the decree to begin with.
Right.
Then again, it could be that one spouse will say, we've always gone out of the country to see this family. That person's not going to object. And then they do.
And then they do. Yeah, sure.
So,
but you're exactly right. You should really try to address these things up front. If you know at the point when you're getting divorced or where you're entering into a custody agreement, if you know that travel outside the country, really even travel outside the state, is going to be an issue, ideally you address it up front in the parenting plan. Hey, I can do this, or no, you can't, or this is how we're going to handle that.
yeah, you can't think of everything, but then you think out of the country too. You think far, far away. Are you going to Cairo to visit family, or are you just going up to Canada? It's still out of the country.
Right, and you can address that as specifically as you need to. Hey, you can take our child, you can take them to Canada.
On a cruise,
you can take
or wherever, yeah.
You can take them to London, wherever you need to go, or you can say, hey, not Brazil.
Right.
Or whatever you
so
can.
address it early.
Absolutely. That's
Always.
why lawyers are handy.
That's what lawyers are handy. All right, Will, thank you so much. Now, if you have a legal question for Will, you can email him at wworsham@color10.com, and he will answer your question on the show. Again, thanks for your advice, and we will see you again very soon. Coming up next,